Deep in a dark German forest in 1944, thousands of American soldiers walked into what would become their tomb. They called it the meat grinder. By the time the guns fell silent, over 40,000 men had been fed into this forest of death, and most would never walk out. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me, and please like and subscribe for more videos like this. September 1944. The war in Europe was supposed to be ending. Everyone said so. The Germans had been crushed in Normandy during the summer. Their army was retreating back to Germany in chaos. American soldiers believed they would be home by Christmas. The mood was optimistic. Victory seemed close enough to touch. But then came Aachen. This ancient German city sat right on the border, and the Americans needed to take it. What they found there shocked them. 5,000 trapped German soldiers refused to surrender. They fought like cornered wolves, building by building, street by street. It took weeks of brutal combat to capture the city. When it was over, Aachen was destroyed and 5,000 Americans were casualties. For the first time, doubt crept into the minds of Allied commanders. Maybe this would not be easy after all. Behind Aachen lay the next objective, the Roe River dams. These massive structures held back millions of gallons of water. If the Germans opened the floodgates, the resulting flood would stop any American advance for weeks, maybe months. Winter was coming fast. The First Army received orders to capture those dams immediately. There was just one problem. To reach the dams, they had to cross the Hürtgen Forest. The Hürtgen was 54 square miles of densely packed pine trees, steep hills, and narrow valleys. The forest floor was dark, even at midday. Visibility was terrible. The trees grew so close together that soldiers could barely see 10 feet ahead. When the American commanders looked at their maps, they saw the forest as an obstacle to push through quickly. They were wrong. The German commanders looked at the same forest and smiled. Field Marshal Walter Model commanded German Army Group E, and he understood something the Americans did not. In that forest, American advantages meant nothing. Tanks could not maneuver between the tight trees. Artillery observers could not see their targets. Fighter planes could not spot enemy positions through the dense canopy. The forest would be a killing ground, and Model had just enough men to hold it. The Germans dug in deep. They concealed machine gun nests, mortar positions, and artillery batteries throughout the forest. They laid thousands of mines. They prepared bunkers and fighting positions with interlocking fields of fire. Then they waited. The Americans outnumbered them 5-1, but in the Hürtgen numbers would not matter. The Germans even had a name for what was about to happen. They called it the Miracle in the West. Mid-September arrived, and American units began probing the forest edges. The 9th Infantry Division sent patrols forward. They were thrown back immediately. Every attempt to push into the forest proper failed. German defenses were too strong, too well hidden. On October 5th, the 9th Division launched a major attack toward a town called Schmidt. The 39th and 60th Infantry Regiments moved forward together. They managed to cut one road, but the cost was staggering. The 60th Regiment lost 2/3 of its men in a single day. 2/3 in one day. The survivors described something terrifying. German artillery was using a technique called tree burst. Instead of shells exploding on the ground where soldiers could take cover, the shells were timed to explode in the tree canopy above. When they detonated, thousands of wooden splinters and metal fragments rained down like deadly confetti. There was no cover. Foxholes were useless. Men were shredded where they stood. By October 16th, the 9th Division had advanced exactly 3,000 yards into the forest. The cost was 4,500 casualties. 3,000 yards, less than 2 miles. The division was pulled out, shattered and exhausted. The 28th Infantry Division replaced them. The slaughter continued. November 2nd. The 28th Division attacked. The 109th Infantry Regiment tried to capture woods north of a small town. They advanced 300 yards and walked into a minefield. Men started dropping, legs blown off, bodies torn apart. The regiment was pinned down, unable to move forward or back. For 2 days they fought just to advance 1 mile. 1 mile in 2 days. The 110th Infantry Regiment pushed toward the Kal River. They needed to capture a village called Samansko, because it controlled a vital supply route. The fighting was savage. Every yard was contested, bodies piled up in the forest trails. The 112th Infantry Regiment attacked from another direction and actually captured a town called Vod. For a brief moment, it looked like progress. Then came November 3rd. A battalion of the 112th Infantry captured Schmidt. They had done it. They cut the German supply route. Officers started talking about breakthrough, but their celebration lasted exactly one day. November 4th, the Germans counterattacked with the 116th Panzer Division. Tanks came crashing through the forest, supported by veteran infantry. The American battalion in Schmidt simply disintegrated. Some men fought, some ran. Many were captured. The town was lost. Desperate American commanders sent in the 707th Tank Battalion. 8 Sherman tanks tried to cross the Call Trail. 5 were destroyed almost immediately. The Germans attacked Wassenach again and retook part of it. By November 8th, the Americans had withdrawn from both Schmidt and the Call Trail. Phase 1 of the battle was over. The Germans had won decisively, but the Americans could not stop. The dams were still the objective. Winter was coming. On November 16th, Operation Queen launched. This was supposed to be the big push, the offensive that would finally break through. The 4th Infantry Division was ordered to clear the northern half of the forest and capture the town of Hürtgen itself. The town was defended by 6,500 Germans with 150 artillery guns. The 4th Division's 8th and 22nd Infantry Regiments attacked parallel to each other. The 8th Regiment hit heavy resistance immediately at a creek called Weiserway. The 22nd was beaten back again and again. After 3 days of continuous fighting, both regiments had suffered 300 casualties and barely moved. Engineers began blasting trails through the forest just to get tanks forward. But every time they made progress, German reinforcements arrived to plug the gap. November 21st, the 8th Infantry Division joined the attack. The 121st Infantry Regiment pushed toward Hürtgen town, making less than 600 yards per day. 600 yards. That is 6 football fields. It took them all day just to advance that far, while men died in the trees around them. Finally, on November 29th, they captured Hürtgen town. The cost was unimaginable. They pushed 1 mile further north to another town. The 1st Infantry Division tried to help. They lost over 300 men killed in just days. The forest consumed everything. Fresh divisions went in strong and came out as broken shells. Green replacement soldiers arrived weekly to fill the gaps left by the dead. These young men had minimal training. They were thrown into the meat grinder and died just as quickly as the veterans. December 6th, the 2nd Ranger Battalion was sent to capture Hill 400. This hill rose 400 meters above the surrounding forest and had a watchtower on top. From that position, the Germans could see everything. The hill was part of the Siegfried Line fortifications, covered in bunkers and defensive positions. The Rangers were elite troops, the best America had. If anyone could take that hill, it was them. They y attaqued. The fighting was hand-to-hand, brutal and personal. Rangers stormed bunkers with grenades and rifles. Germans fought back from prepared positions, slowly, meter by meter. The Rangers clawed their way up that hill. They reached the summit. They had done it, but the Germans were not finished. Over the next several days, 5 separate counterattacks hit Hill 400. German paratroopers joined the assault. The Rangers held on, but their numbers dwindled. At one point, only 25 Rangers were still standing on that summit, surrounded by Bulge. Then came the final German assault. The Rangers could not hold. Hill 400 was retaken. Those elite soldiers, the best of the best, had been defeated. The Germans would hold that hill until February 1945. 3 months later, the Battle of Hürtgen Forest was over. The Americans had lost. The numbers tell the story. 33,000 American battle casualties. Another 9,000 non-combat losses from disease, trench foot, and mental breakdown. Over 42,000 men fed into that forest. Many never came out. The Germans lost around 28,000, including prisoners. But the Germans had won. They held the forest. They kept control of the dams. They delayed the American advance for months. American soldiers who survived Hürtgen called it the worst battle of the war. Worse than the beaches of Normandy. Worse than anything they had experienced. The forest had been a nightmare of mud, cold, darkness, and death. Trebus had killed men in their foxholes. Mines had torn legs from bodies. Machine guns had cut down whole platoons in seconds. And through it all, the Germans had fought with a skill and determination that shocked everyone. Military historians still debate whether the Battle of Hürtgen Forest was necessary. Some say the Americans should have bypassed the forest entirely, gone around it, isolated it. Others argue the dams had to be captured. But everyone agrees on one thing. Hürtgen was a disaster, a meat grinder that consumed an entire generation of young soldiers for minimal gain. The forest itself seemed cursed, a place where nothing could survive. As the battle ended in stalemate, the Germans were already preparing their next move. In another forest, the Ardennes, they were massing troops and tanks for one final desperate gamble. The Battle of the Bulge was about to begin, and many of the exhausted survivors from Hürtgen would be thrown into that fight as well. There would be no rest, no time to recover. The war continued, grinding forward, consuming lives. The Hürtgen Forest stands today much as it did in 19... The bunkers are still there, hidden under decades of leaves and soil. Occasionally, hikers find rusted helmets or shell casings. The forest is quiet now, peaceful even. But for those who fought there, the memory never faded. They carried Hürtgen with them forever, a dark forest that lived in their nightmares. So, if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.